AI themes have shifted a bit year on year, and I find what's fascinating about this year is that people are leaning into the idea of it being a force multiplier. And that is much less about efficiency, more about accepting it. There's definitely adding the human in the loop construct. There's less fear mongering, there's less worry about jobs being cut, and a lot more about how do we work with this to build better businesses. And that's reassuring for a technology person like me, but it's generally, I think, a nicer move or a truer move that's happened instead of worrying about job cuts. Yeah, hundreds of brands ask us how to optimize their data and put an AI layer on that and interrogate it better. The issue is that most brands, most companies are actually not very good at indexing their data. They haven't done a great job of contextualizing. I've done 3 kinds of consumer research, which is the space we're in, and I'm not able to prioritize whether I should think of a segmentation over a brand health tracker, over an ad test. And I think that part is the biggest struggle that brands have faced. Building that needs a human in the loop, because while there's a ton of brand data they have over decades, a large part of that is not useful, and a large part of that is not prioritized. So the big part of getting meaning out of that data is actually less to do with technology and more with the human prioritization of what should take precedence as they think about decisions. Consumer behavior is wild right now. It is such a crazy time. You know, I have 2 teenagers, and just seeing how they engage with content and how they engage with brands, and of course very TikTok forward and very social forward. And then GPT happened, and Claude happened, and all these hyperscalers happened, and that is true enough for consumers. We have a platform that allows you to look at what brands are being represented, what people think about brands, what queries are being made. And as we study these thousands of consumer queries on these platforms, they're coming to them for trust, they're coming to them for verification, they're coming to them for sifting through the noise. In some ways, the shelf, if you think about, you walk into a supermarket and the shelf has 30,000 SKUs. The GPTs of the world have shrunk that shelf to 2 or 3 queries. So as a consumer, it makes decisioning a lot easier and a lot simpler if you can be clear with what you're trying to get to. It's very tricky for brands, of course, because now you're like, whoa, I'm one of 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, instead of having shelf space in a Walmart or Target, as the case might be. So consumers have pivoted very strongly, and I find that it's actually agnostic of generation. So this isn't a Gen Alpha, Gen Z thing. Some of the highest users of understanding brands are actually Gen Xers. If everybody was efficient, and AI was all about efficiency, then at some point in time, you would get rid of 10,000 people at a Salesforce and 15,000 people at a Pfizer and 20,000 people at a P&G. And then what happens? Who buys your shampoo? Who buys your shoes? It is that arc is not a good arc. But I also said it's not a true arc, because there is definitely some efficiency, but the big lifts we're seeing is this idea we call zero distance, where now AI allows you zero distance to a decision. You can get to what you want to do in business faster. You can understand information better. So as humans, we're lateral thinkers. LLMs are linear thinkers. And so we see brands and companies having initially gone into the efficiency game, but definitely now saying, whoa, I need to actually hire more people, more humans in the loop to extract more value out of AI. I want to move faster, and I'm able to do that, but informed human in the loop. And we see this with software job openings, for example. Software job openings are back to an all-time high in the US. They had that massive trend down and they're back. And I think that is the first, and despite Claude Code and Cursor and everything else. So there's clearly a human need to do more and build productivity that way. A large amount of productivity was about being more efficient with your time. But I think with AI, the fascinating part now is you can do more, which you couldn't do. You could just do things faster for a while. Brand, if you go back 50 years, it was monoculture, it was Mad Men, you had a TV ad, it was amazing, epic. You put it on TV, you put it on the back of some magazines, and you drove that conversation. Like Coke was culture. Today, Coke is not culture. It has to sit on so many things. It has to win on TV, it has to win on social, and it has to win on geo. I feel like brands have to figure out what they need to do, but I think understanding where the consumer lives, the classic funnel from awareness to advocacy is gone. TikTok Shop disrupted that in some shape or form. Geo is definitely disrupting it. Whether there's ads or there's clear shopping indicators and how they monetize it, I think will evolve. But clearly, knowing your consumer better, that whole idea of zero distance is even more critical. And some brands do an amazing job. Elf Cosmetics does a fantastic job of it. Shark Ninja does an amazing job of it. but most brands haven't gotten to this idea of zero distance, of understanding consumers intimately in each of those spaces. So the whole idea of bias is fascinating for me. So as I think about bias, everything is biased. The way we see an ad, the way we respond to it, the way we buy clothes, the way we raise our kids. There's bias in the systems that we choose to have. So bias-free as a construct doesn't exist. What does exist is understanding how we are informing our biases into the tool. So at Quilt, we've decided to do three things. Number one, we want to make sure that everything that's been written about a culture, whether it's Balinese dancers or American coastal elites, we take all the literature, make sense of it, and that creates an ontology. An ontology is very important to us to be the base of all learning. Then on top of that, culture lives online and geos all the time. So we ingest that in its complete form to be as composite as possible. And then on top of that, there's a human in the loop that trains it. But we are definitely not bias free. We are bias aware, I think is the important distinction between building good AI models and building bad AI models.